That's a click in. That's when we know. Yeah, I do know that. So it's interesting. So I told you I was confused whether it's Beverly Hills Supper Club. It's definitely Beverly Hills Supper Club. The only place where you'll see it called Beverly Hills Country Club is on the side of the building, in big letters. The only people calling it the Beverly Hills Country Club
are the owners.
Are the people who put Beverly Hills Country Club on the building.
So weird. I can't wait to get to the conspiracy theory part. Do you know about that?
I think I know.
It was on Wikipedia.
Well, does it have to do with their organized crime?
Yeah, mafia.
Yeah. Which I did not. So that was very interesting. One thing I'm starting to find out that I enjoy about doing these things is like learning about different regions, like just different places. And apparently northern Kentucky from like 30s up to the 70s, up to like the end of the 60s was there's organized crime. It was pretty wide open. There was not a lot of law enforcement going on.
That doesn't seem right.
It was wild. It was apparently like a Wild West in northern Kentucky.
I feel
in
like
the middle of the 20th century. That's crazy.
I mean, was there a lot of bootlegging going on?
Oh, I'm sure. And it's the same. You ever seen the People versus Larry Flint?
Fuck yeah, dude.
You remember the beginning of that movie where he grew up, like northern. He was in northern Kentucky, and I think I think the first big city that he made it in was in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
He's from that region. I think it's the Ohio River Valley, maybe.
I
think that's what that area is called. Okay. I think. I could be wrong.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the show. We are so happy to have you. There's Matt over there.
Hello.
Hey, buddy, you looking good today? How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good.
But you are looking good.
I did some redecorating in the room. What do you think?
I see.
What do you think about that?
I'm loving it. It's a gigantic shark the size of the wall.
It is
the entire wall.
It is a huge tapestry of a big great white shark swimming right at you, and it's like a realist, not a cartoon, but like a totally real picture. And I think
it's perfect
awesome.
for podcasting.
It's awesome. It's scary. It is really actually scary when you look at it.
It is. And I am Josh, and I'm feeling two things on this fine ass day.
Mm-hmm. Let's hear it.
Blazed and blessed, as usual.
Yes, sir.
Oh, speaking of blazed, though, today's episode is going to be straight fire. It's going to be lit. You should say. You could say, rather. You should say it. Say it.
Yes. It's,
so this is the Beverly Hills Supper Club.
On May 28th, 1977, one of the deadliest fires in American history occurred when the Beverly Hills Supper Club, located in northern Kentucky, burned to the ground, causing the deaths of 165 people. Located in Southgate, Kentucky, just across the Ohio River from Cincinnati, the Beverly Hills Supper Club was originally built in 1937. Once billed as the showplace of the Midwest, the club, from its inception through the end of the 60s, was operated by quote-unquote organized gambling interests as an entertainment venue that also operated illegal casinos in what was a rather lawless time in northern Kentucky. The club's fortunes declined as organized crime was largely busted in northern Kentucky in the late 1960s. In 1970, real estate developer Richard Schilling bought, expanded, and reopened the club as a supper club featuring popular entertainers. Some of the entertainers that came through the club over the years were Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis, and Milton Berle. So it was a pretty popular spot.
And dude, Dean Martin actually worked there for a time.
Did he really?
As a blackjack dealer, because they had a casino there.
I think I did come across that. So for up until about 1970, when it was bought by the real estate developer, it was apparently a pretty shady place, but it was like that, that big band era and those glitzy kind of like those venues of like the Frank Sinatra type places.
Oh yeah.
It seemed like it was one of that, but you also had like organized crime going on. You had illegal casinos. You had, it's just you have to like that kind of that age is bygone era. You don't see that anymore, but you can see it in footage from the time and those concerts and everything. It's an interesting time. It's
weird too, because we were just talking before we started that a lot of you were saying a lot of organized crime was around that area, which doesn't seem right. You don't necessarily when you think of organized crime, you're mostly thinking New York and New Jersey, and you're thinking Italian mafia. Oh yeah, or Irish.
But you're not thinking necessarily northern Kentucky.
No, it just sounds like.
But northern Kentucky in the mid 20th century was actually a pretty wild place, apparently, and I did not know that.
They were bootlegging and they were shoot-legging.
They were hustling. Larry Flint was hustling. Yeah, they're doing all that. So it's pretty wild.
Well, all right.
But all that they cleaned all that up in the 60s. So by 1970, it was owned by a real estate developer.
Okay.
Between 1970 and 1976, he made several additions to the club, which made it a fire marshal's nightmare. It was essentially a windowless building covering over an acre and a half. Its labyrinthine floor plan featuring multiple large rooms and long, narrow corridors connecting them was a result of a structure built piecemeal and without an overall design to ensure the safety of its occupants.
And this thing looks crazy. You should look a picture of it up right now.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. It looks like a labyrinth, a maze, and oh my goodness.
Yeah, and there was a second floor, but it was relatively small. So compared to the first floor, it was mainly just the one floor, the 1-story building, and that's where the cabaret room, which is where the worst of the tragedy occurred, was located. One of the key design flaws created by the additions was that exits which previously led outside the building now led to another room or corridor. This situation can become acutely dangerous when you have a large room with a large capacity that, over time, loses exits to the additions made to the building. With fewer exits, fire safety would require that the capacity in such rooms be reduced, despite their having the physical space to hold more. However, club owners are trying to maximize their profits as any other business owner would,
right?
And unfortunately, that often leads to safety measures being ignored. That's an easy way, as we see over and over and over, like with the Exxon, or the BP oil spill.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you eliminate safety measures, which may cost more to save money, or you ignore things. You want to pack out the room to maximize your profits, and they were packing those rooms out. Yeah. So and that's what the nightclub owners want to do.
It's hard to bring people out, but not back then. I guess there's nothing else to do.
Well, this place, it should be noted, it was very popular. They didn't have a hard time bringing people out to this place. It seems like it was always popular, even before the change in ownership in 1970. It was a popular place, and they're bringing big names in. Yeah. But it was just a matter of bringing more. They got the room.
In terms of the structure,
and they're just trying to pack it out.
In terms of the structure, it's almost like they had an exit to the outside, right? But then they built another room around that, and essentially that exit door became the door to get into the next room.
That would happen. So that's basically what's happening. And this is always a danger that can be created when you have additions built to a building instead of it being originally conceived with this kind of stuff with what's called life safety. Which has to do with how you design a building to make sure that people are safe in a fire, so that for fire prevention and fire safety measures.
Okay.
And it has to do with occupancy and that sort of thing, and numbers of exits based on the number of people in there and all that. It's all mathematical and all that stuff, which I'm not a mathematical person, but I do think it's interesting to learn about this kind of stuff. But basically, as you're making additions to a building, exits which did go outside now might go to another room that you added on, or a corridor that you had that leads to another room instead of leading outside. So you're losing the number of exits to the building, but the room hasn't gotten any smaller.
That's fucking wild.
So you wind up with rooms that are largely interior rooms now that are huge.
Right. So you have
oh my God, 1,000. You have 1,000 people in a room that only has 2 exits going outside, or maybe no exits going outside.
They said the capacity was 600, and there was 1,300 people in the room, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's
well. The numbers. There's a range of numbers.
Okay.
The one I kind of stuck with was 1,200, but
okay.
We'll just approximately. Further, the interior was decorated with highly flammable wood paneling and thick carpeting, as well as curtains, tablecloths, and other small combustible materials located in the building. There were no sprinklers, no smoke detectors, and no audible fire alarms. On Saturday, May 28, 1977, the latent deficiencies in the building's overall layout, construction, and operation would be brought to light. That Saturday evening, Memorial Day weekend, there were about 2,600 people in the Beverly Hills Supper Club, over twice its capacity.
Wow.
The reason for the large number of guests was popular singer and actor John Davidson was performing that evening in the cabaret room. Josh, have you ever heard of John Davidson?
No, I looked him up. I know a little bit about him if you want to hear about him.
Yeah, let's hear about him.
He is a TV show host, a game show host, and I think he's just popular to Cincinnati, basically. But
so he's a local.
Yeah.
Okay.
And an actor, but he currently. He's the one. He started.
I do know this.
The Neverland.
Finding Neverland.
Yeah, Finding Neverland on Broadway. So that's kind of cool. Actually, he plays Hook.
Is that popular? I've heard of it.
I'm pretty sure it is because it became a movie as well.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd never seen either.
Yeah.
But yeah, and his show that night was an all-inclusive dinner package, which cost a whole $13.95. But
wow.
inflation today, that would be $60 today. So
that's not bad.
That's a dinner, a show, and a drink included.
You know,
but you have to buy one drink past that. It's a one drink minimum past the package.
That's fair.
That's fair. Yeah.
I think that's a reasonable deal.
I think it's a great deal. And then,
would you pay $60 now to see John Davidson?
Not John Davidson, but if James Brown was still alive, he was scheduled to play there. If it didn't burn down, he was scheduled to play there July 8th through the 17th of the same year. So just months later.
Very cool.
And then, I think it was B.B. King or somebody was supposed to play the month after that. So it's pretty like a hopping, like you were saying, it was pretty hopping club. I can't remember who it was, but it was somebody.
There were about 1,200 people in the cabaret room alone, 3 times its capacity. Sometime between 8:45 and 8:50, employees discovered heavy smoke covering the ceiling of the Zebra Room, a smaller venue in the club that had earlier hosted a wedding reception but was unoccupied by this time. They immediately attempted to put out the fire with extinguishers, but failed utterly, and in fact, by leaving the door to the Zebra Room open, allowed more oxygen to reach the fire, accelerating its spread.
How would you know that? You would never know that. If you were going to investigate a fire, you would never know.
And I'm kind of poking fun, but it's a natural. You see a fire, you grab fire extinguishers and try to put it out. But that was a mistake. For one thing, they should have closed the door immediately and not tried to fight the fire. And obviously, they should immediately have called the fire department and gone and alerted guests. I think they did, and to be fair, they did do all that stuff fairly quickly, just not quickly enough. Yeah. And the worst thing they did, though, was leave the door to that room open, which allowed oxygen to get to the fire and allowed it to spread very quickly throughout the building. The fire was most likely electrical in origin and would have required a carbon dioxide or dry powder extinguisher. I say that completely randomly just because I thought that was interesting. The first call to the fire department was made about 15 minutes after the fire was discovered. Minutes later, a little after 9 p.m., firefighters could see the smoke coming from the building upon arrival. As the smoke began to billow out of the Zebra Room, some patrons in nearby parts of the club, including a relatively small second story above the Zebra Room, began to notice the smell of smoke. However, there being no adequate alarm system in the building, employees had to go from room to room in this labyrinth to alert most of the patrons to the fire and urge them to leave. The approximately 1,200 occupants of the cabaret room, located at the opposite end of the building, were the last to be alerted and were fortunate to be alerted at all. This is because when busboy Walter Bailey informed his supervisors about the fire, he was met with incredulity, as no outward indication of a fire had yet reached the cabaret room. Frustrated by their lack of action, Walter walked up on stage, interrupted the performance of John Davidson's opening act, and alerted the crowd to the fire and urged them to evacuate. Unfortunately, like the supervisors, many patrons did not appreciate the severity of the situation and did not take the opportunity to exit.
They make a point to say that this guy had crippling stage fright.
Yes.
Crippling stage fright. So it took everything in him to go up on stage and take the mic from 2 professional performers.
Yes, 2 comedians,
in front of
Teeter and McDonald.
1,300 people who paid to get in.
Technically, I guess it might have been 4 since I think they both had their ventriloquists,
right.
and they had presidential dummies. So he had to go take it from 4 people.
The dummies did not like it.
No. But that's awesome. That little anecdote in this story, it's it's amazing.
It's amazing because you never have to face that ever. If you have stage fright, why would you ever?
That is such an incredibly specific.
Yeah, it's very specific
situation where you have to face your fear.
Can you imagine that? Like, I have to tell people, oh shit, I have to get on stage.
Yeah.
Oh shit, I have crippling stage fright.
Yeah, that's just that's incredible.
And he did it, man. Walter Bailey, you're a hero, buddy.
So the timeline, it does vary. So you're gonna have to take that with a grain of salt. But from what I read, so somewhere between, first of all, The fire had apparently been smoldering for some time before it was discovered. And in fact, there had been a wedding reception in the zebra room where the fire originated, that had exited, that left about 8:30. In fact, they had left early because the room was too hot, and also some of the patrons that were in that room said they heard kind of a crackling sound.
Yeah, I heard popping noises.
Yeah, popping sounds.
In the ceiling.
Right? It was coming from the ceiling. There was the ceiling tiles and the material in and around the ceiling, around the wiring, was highly combustible. So the fire was smoldering for some time before it was discovered. And so that's when it was discovered. There's some variation. I saw anywhere between 8:45 to 8:56. An employee smelled smoke coming from that room, opened the door, and saw the ceiling was covered in smoke, and
I feel like I saw that the fire department was there within.
But the fire department, everything I've read was there no more. It took them no more than 5 minutes to get there. They were there extremely quick. Yeah. So from what I understand, it was not long after 9 p.m. That the fire department arrived. Another issue that I wanted to point out that made the situation where it's like every possible bad thing that could happen, and I hate to use the cliche of a perfect storm, but it really everything. I mean, every bad thing. There was one road leading up to the building, and it was packed with patrons' vehicles. Okay. So the fire trucks had a difficulty reaching the building, and so they had to get longer hoses just to get the hoses to the buildings because it did not have an adequate. So at every level, the fire safety of this whole property was abysmal.
And take a look at pictures of the insides. You have the cabaret room, and I had to look up cabaret because I kept getting it confused with burlesque. Two different things.
Correct.
So in the cabaret room, the tables are so tight that if you back your chair up, you will hit another chair. So imagine, and then, 600 capacity, but then it's twice that.
Yes. I mean, it's absolutely packed out.
You can't move.
The aisles are, there's chairs out in the aisles. It's even hard to walk down the aisles. And there's chairs on the ramps. The tables are packed too close together. Waitresses. I mean, people reported this after the fire, but this is something they said was a routine occurrence in this club. The waitresses couldn't reach certain patrons because they were just too packed behind tables and people and chairs. They couldn't even reach them.
That's right.
That's how packed it was in these places. That's
fucking
insane.
Baseball game, like peanuts, pass it down. Pass down my money.
That's in a restaurant, and imagine now also the walls are covered in draperies, covered in like curtains and stuff.
Highly
thick
combustible.
Carpet, wood paneling. All this stuff is highly combustible. Will accelerate a fire. Will burn up very quickly. Too many people. You got anywhere between 1,200, 1,300 people. In this room that shouldn't have more than 600. You've only got, when the fire hits the room, you've only got 2 viable exits to the room. So yes, that's the situation.
It's a perfect storm, firestorm. I can't believe only 165 people died.
That's the interesting thing to me is that
because it destroyed the fucking complex. It was finished, dude.
Yeah, well, you think, and it's weird because like 1,200 people or 1,300, whatever it was, we'll say 1,200 just as an approximation in this big theater. Yeah. If only 165 people died, that's actually not as bad as you think. And the Coconut Grove fire, which is the worst nightclub fire in American history, which we'll cover at some point. I think it was 491 people died.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's crazy.
But it was still terrible. So people were, after the room was plunged into darkness, the smoke and the flames are coming into the room. There's only 2 exits to get out that were not leading into where the fire was coming from, and people, as witnesses later described, they were stacked up like cordwood in the 2 doorways. They were just packed so tight. Not all of them were even dead. Some of them were still alive, but they were just completely helpless and packed in there. Firefighters were trying to pull them out, but they were so packed and tightly packed in there they couldn't do it.
That's my worst nightmare, being squeezed. If you remember in the Nutty Putty episode, I said that too, and I don't don't like being in tight spaces.
No.
At all.
What do you think would be worse?
Being crushed would be the absolute...
In a mass of people?
Yes. That'd be so bad.
Or being
like
but
in the doorway but being upside down.
Being stuck upside down in a cave?
Well, you decided to do that.
But at least...
And that sucks.
At least... this is going to sound weird, but at least if you die in a crush of people, you died with people. You know, you didn't die alone.
That's a good point. But
I feel like dying in that cave alone, there's something worse about that, I think.
I think you
and
actually know
being upside down.
And knowing the people eating pizza.
If he wasn't upside down, I might prefer that just to have some privacy while I die.
Yeah.
Because it's a crowd death. You know, you got to be like a Roman. You know, you got to be really comfortable around other people if you're going to die in a crowd. But that's, but there's nothing wrong with that. And if you put me in that cave and you put me upside down, then I'm saying put me in the crowd.
You remember the episode? You're upside down. You're smelling pizza. People are eating pizza.
But that smell didn't get all the way down there. Yeah. He got to talk to his wife too.
I digress.
So
that's on a different episode. Anyways,
it's hard to say.
I had to look up cordwood.
But okay, so it's basically like firewood.
But I had to look it up and see what does that mean? Stacked like cord. Oh, okay, all right.
And then when you look at it and you think of what he's saying, it's like, oh god.
And then you're like, shit,
it's horrifying.
Yeah, it is horrifying.
It's just people stacked up like logs, basically.
Yep.
That's where most of the
they're burning like logs too.
Jesus.
Roasted them. Whoa, hold on, I'm on fire. What? Hold on.
God. You're rapid fire over here.
Comedy corner, baby. Comedy corner.
That's good. God damn. We might not be able to go to Cincinnati now. Fuck you.
No,
you
man,
ruined my
going
plans,
to Cincinnati,
dude.
bro.
You ruined my
plans. We got to see where Airborne was made.
It's all right. We should mention this event. So while most people in the country, I presuming, don't really know about this event. I'd never heard of this until relatively recently. Yeah. I think if you ask most people, certainly our age, they wouldn't have heard of it. But in Cincinnati, that's not the case. It's very, very much remembered, even 40 years later.
So is Airborne, baby.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, we love you.
No, I want to go to Cincinnati. So stop talking shit.
I'm not talking shit about the Natty, baby.
As one witness said, "Finally, I saw the door open. As I came out, I turned to look at the people. They weren't screaming anymore. The smoke had covered them all up. Indeed, most of the people had died from smoke inhalation and acute carbon monoxide poisoning."
God, man.
And it didn't take long for that to happen.
Smoke monster like in Lost,
just
baby.
basically just turned into a giant gas chamber very quickly.
Damn.
John Davidson had to go through because what was his manager, I think?
His manager, yep, I had that.
He died in the fire, and he had to identify his body.
Yeah, they had makeshift morgues all around.
Yeah, and they had local teenagers were helping to move the bodies into these big auditoriums, basically, where the people would go in and identify their loved ones.
Yeah, so the comedy team of Teeter and McDonald were on the stage when this is happening.
Yes.
They
were the opening act.
They were using a Jimmy Carter ventriloquist dummy because that's who the president was at the time. And
so they're doing political comedy.
And so they all got out, and they got all their dummies out. They made sure all their dummies were out. And Davidson was later saying that when he walked outside, he saw the ventriloquist dummies laying in the grass amongst real bodies, and that their souls were jumping into the dummies, and he didn't know what the fuck to do. So that was a quote from John Davidson. That was not a quote. It was not a quote. Right. That did not happen. That did not happen.
So I'm canceling my plans to go to Cincinnati, motherfucker.
We love John Davidson. He made Finding Neverland.
So that was real though. He did mention he saw these dummies laying out next to actual bodies that were being laid out on the ground outside the building, which is just a darkly comic scene. It's just horrible. But yeah.
No souls are jumping out.
But the souls. He did not say that. I do want to talk about the main reasons. Why all the contributing factors that made this. The tragedy, the disaster that it was.
You see, you spat them off rapid fire.
Delayed alarms, no emergency plan, no fire protection, for example, sprinklers, no fire drills, unsuitable interior finish, lack of exits, overcrowding, blocked exits. and also inaudible fire alarm.
When was the stop, drop, and roll
Also,
campaign?
faulty electrical wiring. What?
Dang. I said, when was the stop, drop, and roll campaign?
I don't know. I think
All right.
I know we learned about that in the early 90s.
Well, I didn't have it yet.
I don't think that would have helped them, though. The problem wasn't that they were on fire so much that they were breathing smoke.
Man, dude.
And could not get out.
I kid, but that's horrifying to think about if you're in the center of that room. Over capacity.
Yes.
Like I said, chairs touching each other back to back, and then just stuffed in the aisles. At some moment, you're thinking to yourself, I'm not going to make it out of this room. But then you kind of did, though, right? I mean, most of the people got out. But
yeah,
if you're one of the 165 people who did die, like, you went there to see, a show and some supper and a drink, and you end up just in a maze. Like, imagine yourself in a corn maze and somebody just sets it on fire.
Some of the people died. Some of the people got out of the cabaret room, but not out of the building, and got lost in the labyrinth of the building and died.
Two people, actually.
Yeah.
They were found outside because they got lost.
They got out of the
they
room,
were
but
somewhere
couldn't get
else.
out of the building because it was a total
It's literally
maze.
a maze.
It's just crazy.
It's like the H.H. Holmes house.
So,
house.
yeah. So when when you're out there wanting to add on to your house and whatnot, and you got to deal with all the city code bullshit, just know that it's because shit like this happened that we have these codes and have these rules. So just be safe, just build according to code. Might cost a little more, but you don't want to have this kind of
you won't be
horrible. I mean, they broke every rule and they didn't have to.
Yeah, and you won't have this on your conscience, and you'll have a. Oh my God.
So
man, it's just crazy.
So
nuts.
As the in all the lawsuits, obviously that would come after, the plaintiffs were awarded a sum of $55.4 million in total. And I do want to read this quote that just to kind of illustrate what was going on in the building that night. There were no reports of the exit doors being locked. However, Bruce Rath, a Fort Thomas firefighter, was quoted as saying, "When I got to the inside doors, which is about 30 feet inside the building, I saw these big double doors and people were stacked like cordwood. They were clear up to the top. They just kept diving out on each other trying to get out. I looked back over the pile and it wasn't dead people. They were dead and alive in that pile, and I went in and just started to grab them two at a time and pull them off the stack and drag them out."
Some people think it was a possible mafia job.
I didn't know that specifically, but that doesn't surprise me, just given the history of that establishment.
Right. It's such like a thing that this happened in 1977?
Yes.
So in 2008, the governor of Kentucky was like, let's do it. He put a team together. They went to look for evidence. They couldn't find any evidence, or not enough evidence was found to make a case, but it was said enough times and believed enough that something was done about it in 2008, and this event occurred in 1977. So
right.
I mean, they must have known something. Somebody knows something, I guess.
So did anything come of the investigation? Or?
No, they said that no.
Is that what they launched an investigation? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they launched They launched one, and then they
found nothing.
Yeah, unfounded. So unfounded.
It was complete lack of safety standards and protocols, and that it may have been something where that kind of culture bled over in the establishment. I don't know how many of the staff or management would have remained when the ownership changed in 1970.
Yeah, but
clearly they didn't have much regard for fire code before then, and they didn't seem to have any after that. If anything, the respect for fire safety went down after the change in management. Well, and in 1970 is when all the additions began, and that's what actually created a lot of the problems. Not to say that there weren't any before then, because I'm sure they still had the lush carpeting and drapery and all that stuff, but they blocked off a lot of exits when they created the additions to the building, and that's what caused a lot of that's what created that maze-like floor plan.
Yeah, I believe the week before, a fire inspector came and inspected, and then he actually added a door for the performers to an exit to the outside, and
yes,
that's the only reason, basically, why the performers,
why John Davidson is alive.
But in the wake of that, 3 fire inspectors were suspended.
By 11:30, all firefighters were ordered to evacuate the building, which was now an inferno. At midnight, the roof collapsed on what remained of the structure. Today, nothing remains of the Beverly Hills Supper Club. A plaque at the site commemorates the 165 lives lost in the tragedy.
Did they lose all the supper too?
Yes.
Damn. What a tragedy, bro.
It's just, that's a bad one.
That is a bad one. So this has been Beverly Hills Supper Club, everybody. Thank you so much for listening.
Good night.
Remember to stay safe out there.
Afternoon. I guess you might be listening to it whenever, so.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
God bless you.
But
good night.
Thanks for
listening. Here's a kiss for you. Just remember to stay safe out there and be careful not to find yourself in your own macabre reality.